We have a lot of people who ask us where they would fit into the Highland Games, and they doubt whether they do. They say, maybe I'm too fat, or I'm not athletic enough, or I don't have the skills.
Or I'm not 6.5 feet tall. I'm not really big. I'm not a power lifter. I'm not a college thrower.
The great thing about the Highland Games is that there's a class or a place for everyone. There's different classes for different sizes, different genders, different weights, and different skill levels. So, what class are you?
I'm an A, sometimes a super A on good years.
Yeah, and a lightweight, right?
Of course.
And I'm also an A and compete with the other women in Highland Games. So in this video, we're going to explain the different classes, and hopefully you can find where you fit in Highland Games.
Okay, novice class. This is where we all start. You look ridiculous sometimes, but this is when you'll learn all of the events. There'll be people there to help you to learn all the events. Just show up with a willing attitude, athletic shoes on, don't paint your face, and be ready to get going.
When you're ready to move up from the novice class, you will enter the C class. All the weights and events remain the same, but you're all still learning and continually getting better. When you're ready to move up from the C class and your throws continue to improve, you will move to the B class, where the competition continues to get more intense.
Okay. The athletes with the best throws end up in the A class, and some people will never end up in the A class, and that's fine. The A class is where you have the heaviest cabers. You can be invited to the world championships. You get invites to bigger games, but it's also where the competition is the most intense and where it's the hardest to compete. It is a lot of fun, but you will see the biggest and the strongest and the best throws in this class.
If you are under 200 pounds for the men or under 150 for the women, you can compete in the lightweight class. The weigh-in is the morning of the competition, and you will throw some lighter implements.
This is a class for the people who haven't discovered yet that food tastes good.
Once you turn 40 years old, you can enter the Masters class. You also throw some lighter implements in this class. It's still a very competitive class. They even have a world championship, and these are great athletes to watch and learn from because they've all been doing it usually for many years. And you can compete from 40 years old until you want to quit.
You'll also see the pros at some games, though not very many. These are athletes that are not only good, but they can be consistent from game to game, and have also been around long enough to get invited by ADs to compete at their games. Very fun to watch.
So of course, the number of classes depends on the size of the event. Some games are 2 days, how popular it is. If you're going to get a lot of athletes out to a games, like 75 to 100 athletes, there are going to be more options in classes. For example,
if you have enough people coming out that are A's, they might even make up a super A class, which is just the top throwers in the A class that can compete on their own.
Yeah, and depending on the size, sometimes you'll have multiple masters classes. Like you'll have 40 to 50, 50 to 60. It just depends on how many athletes there are. If it is not a large games, if it is a smaller games, then what they have to do is combine classes. And in that case, they kind of just make like an open class. So for example, if there's not enough women competing to make a C and a B and an A class, then instead they'll just combine all the women together and they'll have a women's open class instead, and you guys will all compete together.
It's actually a really good opportunity if you have that chance. If you are a C and you get to compete with the A's and the B's for a day, it's an excellent way to pick up some tips or to watch people who happen to throw better than you do in some events.
Yeah, so don't be nervous if you're signing up for your first games and there isn't a novice class. Just sign up. Sign up and show up even if you've never thrown any of the implements before. That's how most of us have started. So good luck.
See you on the field.
And have fun.